Hello and welcome. It's Tuesday Tips Live here at Digital DJ Tips with me, Phil Morse, in the Digital DJ Tips studio. It's great to have you here, and today's topic is the death of iTunes. What should DJs do? What is your next step, if anything? And this is all about the news this week that iTunes is now very, very strongly rumoured to be disappearing. iTunes will be removed from your Mac, removed from your PC, and replaced with exactly the same apps that anyone who uses Apple ecosystem on their iPads or phones will know very, very well. A music app, which is where you listen to your music, a TV app, a podcast app, a movies app, and so on. And then to buy your music, currently you have a different app, which is your iTunes store on a device like this. So this is what is, so rumour has it, very strong rumour has it, is what is coming to Windows and to Mac. In other words, the iTunes app that we love, hate, know, have used for a long, long time now, looks like it's finally disappearing. So that's what we're talking about today. What do you need to know? When's this likely to happen? How is it going to affect your music? How is it going to affect your DJing? And all that kind of thing. So this is a live show. We are live here in the studio. If you're watching the recording of this on Facebook or especially on YouTube and you're thinking, come on, get to it, I've only got 5 minutes, this is not the show for you. You are watching a recording of a live show. You could have been here live and taken part. And a lot of people do take part. I've got comments flying in here already. I've got Roberto says, hi Phil from Bucharest. Darren, hi from Australia. Hello to Brian, hello to Daniel, who says, I use Apple, but I don't really use iTunes. And lots of other people. You could have been one of them commenting if you were here live. So look, this isn't for you if you just want a quick 5 minute in out. This is a recording of a show, just to let you know. We normally go on for about half an hour. But look, if you subscribe to the channel and click the bell, or if you follow this page over on Facebook, we can let you know when we are going live by notifying you. So you'll get the next one live. Okay, so just a heads up if you're watching the recording. By the way, if you are watching the recording, you can still ask your questions underneath and I will still get to you underneath. So me and my team are here to answer questions even days after this went live. So don't feel like you can't ask questions, but you're watching a show, a recording of a show. Right, now we've got that clear. If you're new to the channel, we are Digital DJ Tips. We are the people behind this book, Rock the Dance Floor, one of the #1 selling books on Amazon about how to DJ, which goes through gear, music, techniques, playing out and promoting yourself. Our 5 ways to succeed as a DJ. It is a bit of a phenomenon. It's sold tens of thousands of copies over the years, and you actually get a free copy of this when you join Digital DJ Tips. Again, there'll be a link underneath me after this broadcast. So if you want a copy of the book, I will give you one. Just join the site and you can grab a PDF. It's also on audiobooks, Kindle, bookshops, etc. So that's who we are. We're Digital DJ Tips. We're behind this book. Our mission is to help you become a better DJ or a better DJ producer. And we are a DJ school. We sell dozens of DJ courses and more coming out all the time. And indeed, our next big course is called the Complete DJ course, which is really exciting. It's like the course of the book. So we're looking forward to releasing that. But anyway, that's going to be next month. All right. So today we're talking, and so that's who we are for anyone who's new to the channel. And for all our regulars who are watching live, hello, good to have you here. We're going to get on to talking about iTunes is going away. What are DJs to do about it in just 2 seconds? But I just want to give 1 or 2 shout outs. So please ask your questions underneath, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. I've got them all coming in live here and I will get back to you. DJ Too Fine, a brother named Sherm, says, hello Phil from Ibiza. Not so far from us down here in Gibraltar. Good to have you here with us today. Jason says, hi Phil from Minneapolis. Laquito, as always, good to have you here, my friend. Postmaster Sodium says, oh my God, I finished my run in time to tune in live. Got to say hi, Phil. Hey, if you've just finished a run, go and have a look at my vlog, which isn't live yet, the latest episode of the vlog, which will be on YouTube in a day or two. I had literally just finished a run when I filmed it in 80-degree heat. I'd just run up a big hill. I'm covered in sweat, and I just turned on my phone and recorded a vlog because I had something I wanted to say. So if you're a runner, as our friend Postmaster Sodium is, you might find that one interesting. Michael says, wow. Azora Sound says, what's up guys? DJ Blazon says, hello on Facebook. Richard says, yo. Terence says, hi Phil. Eric says, seriously, I'm using iTunes for my music and I'm using it in Serato. We'll get to giving you advice on that in a bit, Eric. Andy says, hi from Morocco. Again, not so far from us, just over there. As we are down here in Gibraltar. I can see you, and maybe not you, Andy, but I can see Morocco from the studio. DJ Stay City Gareth says hi, Phil, and Paul says hi. Look, loads of you saying hello there. I'm not going to read too many of those out because I know a lot of you are dying to get to the point and what we're here for today, which is the death of iTunes. What are DJs to do? So let's start talking about that. So look, this is the news that Apple will kill off iTunes in the next version of its Mac OS operating system. And I wrote it down, it's Mac 10.15, which is due in autumn or fall this year. So this is a very, very strong rumor. I want to get that clear from the first start, from the off. This is not, has not been confirmed. However, it is very, very strongly rumored now, and we would be very surprised if it didn't happen. Why? Well, it doesn't take too much to work out why. If you use Apple's apps over on your iOS device or on Android, you'll know that they're very clean, they're very simple. The music app is simple. You know, the iTunes store, which is now where you buy stuff on those devices, is nice and simple. The way podcasts work and movies and so on and TV, it's just all very simple, an app for everything. Whereas iTunes, on the other hand, it's got the lot in it. I mean, it wasn't so long ago, it had ringtones in it, for God's sake, but it's got everything in it, right? Podcast, videos, you've got your streaming music, you've got your local music, you never know which is which. You go to the top to look for something new. You don't know whether to go to the iTunes store, where you can only hear 40 seconds of it, but you can buy it, or you go to the For You tab or the Browse tab, which seem to be the same thing, but they're not quite, but at least you can listen to the whole song there. When you've downloaded a song, you're never really too sure whether it's going to show in your DJ software or not. Plus you've got all your kids' music, plus you've got podcasts in there. You've got to have certain settings just to make it show in your DJ software. It's a long cry from that nice, clean, simple little app that used to control the music that we put on our iPods when the iPod was first launched, isn't it? You know, iTunes has become like the Microsoft Word of music. Everyone uses it, but no one loves it anymore, right? So Apple knows that, and Apple will be changing this stuff. You know, as I say, we'll be very, very surprised if that doesn't happen before the end of the year. And iTunes will be no more. It will disappear. What does that mean for DJs? So that is what we're going to be talking about today. So obviously DJs are going to be worried about this because DJs, it tends to be right down the middle. So on this side, we've got the DJs who use iTunes, and on this side, we've got the DJs who just don't. So the DJs who do use iTunes, typically they use it to organize their music, and then when they go into Serato, Chapter, Rekordbox, or whatever, click that little iTunes tab, and it opens up. There's all your smart playlists, there's your music, just as it was in iTunes. And then if you want to put it onto your phone or whatever, yeah, you can do that as well. If you want to use another piece of DJ software, maybe you have Algorithms DJ, DJAY, running on your iPad, you can use your same music collection on there with the same playlist. You know, it's universal and it's in all DJ software and it's generally worked well for DJs. However, this side are the people who will never touch iTunes. For whatever reason, they just haven't. They're using Serato, Rekordbox, whatever, to arrange their music. They keep their music in a folder somewhere and they've just never seen the need to use iTunes, or they've dabbled and it hasn't worked for them. So the DJ world literally is about 50-50. In fact, here at Digital DJ Tips, we don't advise new DJs to use iTunes anymore because we've seen the writing on the wall for a long time. And it's just difficult to explain how it works, difficult to explain how to keep your Apple music separate from your local music and all this stuff. We haven't actually advised that for a while. That said, we still use it. We know a lot of DJs who do, because if you understand its ins and outs, it's still quite a powerful way of using your music. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. So just like our audience, we're kind of in two camps and have been for a while about iTunes. But anyway, it's going to be an academic point soon because it looks like it's going away. So let's talk about what is going to happen. So the first thing is, we are very sure from the rumors that this is what's going to happen. There will be an app called Music. Music will be an app which is where you play your music on your Mac or on your PC. It will be called Music. It will look like the Music app if you're an iOS user on, this is my little iPad mini obviously, but on your phone or on Android or whatever. It will look like the app you've already got to play your music from Apple on those devices. So, what does this mean for DJs? Well, this is the thing. It may retain organization of local music. In other words, your music app for sure will have Apple Music in it because that's what Apple wants to push everyone into, subscription. So for sure, the music app, I use it on my iOS devices and I'm also an Apple Music user. All my Apple Music is in there, I'm used to that. But also my local music is in there and anyone else who uses that app will know that as well. So is it going to have the local music in it as well? That is the big question. Will Apple take this opportunity to axe a local music library in the new music app and possibly at the same time axe the download store as well? We'll move on to the download store in a minute. We don't know that. I wouldn't put it past them, but it certainly isn't something that we're sure is going to happen. We know that what we're talking about now is going to happen, but that bit, not sure. So the new music app might have the old style iTunes. Here's where I organize my files and folders and playlists, and they all show in my DJ software. Fine. Actually, that would be a huge improvement because it would have none of the bloat, none of the podcasts, none of the videos, none of the stores, none of any of it. It would just be for organizing your music and putting your music into those playlists on your DJ software. And on the face of it, that would be good, especially if you could just turn off the Apple Music streaming service so it literally is just your local files. It'd be like a step backwards to when it was just a little app to organize the music for your iPod, right? So in theory, that would be good. But the big question is, are they going to move that local music across at all? Or are they just going to have it as basically the app for interfacing with the Apple Music streaming service and kill local music? We don't know that. So don't panic, because if that does happen, you'll have lots and lots of warning and you will never, ever, ever lose the music that you own, ever. Music you have bought and own is always going to be safe. It's just a case of what you organize it in, and you will lose the ability to do that in iTunes. So that is what, well, rather in music, which should be the name of the new app. So that is what might happen. So as I say, if they don't pull across the ability to organize your local music, one thing that is interesting and possibly quite likely is that if they don't do that, they will keep some kind of legacy music organizer app. Because if you think about it, there's millions of iPods out there that rely on plugging in order to get music to and from them, right? Like iPods used to be. And I don't know whether Apple would be ready to just throw those people out to the wolves, really, and not give them a way of doing that. So there may well be a legacy app. And also, any new music app might not have all the features on it that they eventually want to put onto it. So they might keep the old one going, or a version of the old one, just while they make the switch. So it's not going to happen quickly. And a little bit like Tractor, and any of you Tractor users will know what I'm talking about now, has launched a new app, Tractor DJ, but its old app, or Tractor DJ 2 actually on tablets, but its the old version of Tractor is still there, is still chugging along, and everyone thinks what's going to happen is they'll develop the new one to the point where it's as powerful as the old one, then they'll turn the old one off, and it might be ages before that happens. So that might happen as well. Now, look, if you're worried about this, don't be, because you can use your DJ software to organize all your music. Remember, you're not going to lose any of your music. So if you use Serato, just use Serato to organize it. If you use Rekordbox, just use Rekordbox. If you use Tractor, just use Tractor. And there's bound to be third-party people moving in. So just a couple of likely suspects. Record Buddy, who already do the conversion apps between the apps, might move in and say, We'll sort you out. We'll bring you a bit of software that'll do what iTunes used to. Mixed in Key might do it because they're that kind of company. Algorithm might do it because their software relies on iTunes. So they might write a little app that'll do it. No, I'm only guessing. I don't know at all whether these three companies are involved in doing that. I have no inside information, but the chances are someone will step in and do it. Hell, we might do it if we meet the right software developer. So look, don't worry. That's the first thing. So now we're going to move on to talking about the iTunes store, because if the new music app, which we're sure of, by the way, will not have a store in it, that much we're pretty certain about, it will just be for playing your music back, where will you be buying your music from? So we're going to move on to talk about that next. But before we do that, I want to just move on and answer some questions that have been coming in live. So what will happen to all my tracks currently stored on my iTunes, says Philip? Absolutely nothing, Philip. This is a big, big point that everyone needs to take on board. Your tracks will be perfectly safe. They're yours. They're files. They're on your computer. If iTunes is turned off, they'll still be on your computer. You're not going to lose them. You're not going to lose a single thing that you own and that you have downloaded. Really important that you know that. I hate iTunes, says Rakov. Don't sit on the fence there, Rakov. So lots and lots of people saying hello, but I'm going to move on to the questions now because we're into what we're talking about. So Beatport is the best for buying music, says Paul. We're going to move on to buying music in a bit, but Beatport is something we'll talk about because, of course, they've teamed up with DJ City to do something which covers a whole area of music they never covered. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Hi guys, I'm using iTunes and iTunes Singapore is the only music download store, says Andrea on Facebook. Well, I don't know about what's going on in Singapore, but that would certainly be something that someone would hopefully step in and give you some more choices there. So should we start making our playlists in our music folder, says DJ LC. So this is talking about, in iTunes, you make smart playlists, you make folders and you organize your playlist inside iTunes. It all shows in your DJ software and it's awesome. It works well if that's what you do. So good question. I think rather than making them in your music folders, like on your operating system, which is a bit clunky because of course it's hard to have the same track in different playlists and stuff, I would say maybe think about using the playlist functions in your DJ software because nowadays it's getting better and better. And for instance, Rekordbox is brilliant. It's up there with iTunes in what you can do. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's better. So think about using your DJ software rather than iTunes to organize that. Hi Phil, says DJ Nostalgia. DJ Nostalgia, it's great to have you here. One of our best students who says, it's the first time I've managed to catch Tuesday Tips live. Where have you been for the last 18 months? But I'm looking forward to it. It's good to have you here. Anyway, we're looking for questions. Azora Sounds on Facebook says, does this mean that iTunes stores will close, but Apple Music will replace it as just a streaming service? Well, what we're talking about is that we think the new music app will definitely organize your Apple Music for sure. Think the Spotify offline app, for instance. But it may also organize your local music, as in the files you own. And if it doesn't, there will be a version left, a legacy version, an old version that will let you organize your local music, Azora. iTunes has become a backup for me, says Brian. Where can I get the book, says Ty? You can get it in all good bookstores. You can also buy it on Amazon, this copy. You can get it on Kindle and you can get it on Audible and iBooks as well if you'd rather listen to it. But if you join Digital DJ Tips, and there will be a link underneath me before too long, you can just get a PDF copy on us for free. And joining Digital DJ Tips is also free. Okay, more iTunes questions. I use it on my Windows PC. Well, at least there's lots of different versions of ID3 tag and music organizers on Windows. It's a bit more limited on Mac, says Michael. Okay, more questions coming in live. What do you think of people ripping music from YouTube using a converter for their DJ sets, says Blake. It sounds terrible. Is what I think. You will have to pry iTunes from my cold, dead hands, says Zach. So there we go. By the way, if you have just joined us, we are talking about this. The death of iTunes. It looks like iTunes is finally going to be laid to rest by Apple, replacing it with different apps, music, movies, podcasts, and possibly a store for buying music as well. But we're moving on to the store bit in a minute. So it means on your Mac or your Windows PC, it will be like it is on your tablet, basically, like Apple. iTunes disappeared from tablets a long time ago, although there is still an iTunes store for buying music and movies. So iTunes does need breaking up, says Darren. It's getting bloated. I had no idea this was going to happen, says DJ Too Fine. Let's just get some more iTunes questions before we move on. Okay, I'm just, because this is live, I'm having to scan them and just try and pull things out here. Eric says, hi Phil, in Poland it's illegal to DJ with iTunes. Apple's licenses don't allow it. Well, we're not talking about DJing with it. We're talking about using it as something to organize and buy your music from Eric. I use iTunes religiously, says Nee on YouTube. Guess I'll just stick with the current Mojave iOS and I just won't upgrade when the next operating system comes along. Well, look, that's the other thing. You don't need to upgrade. The software that's currently on your operating system is yours. So until you're ready to upgrade, this isn't going to affect you, right? It's only when you say, all right, I'm ready to do it. So no one's going to force this on you. iTunes is the biggest ball ache for DJs and non-DJs alike, says James. I don't even bother having an iTunes account, even though I've been an Apple user for years, says Enea. I'm not a big fan of Mac or iTunes, so I'm good, says Juan. Again, Peter's the same. He says, I've never used it. Okay, lots of you chatting about the using YouTube to DJ with. Maybe we'll use that. We'll have another one of these about that soon. Anyway, we're going to move on. So if you've just joined us, we're talking about the death of iTunes. This very strong rumor now that in later on this year, in the next launch of Mac OS, iTunes will be broken up into its constituent parts, and this rather dramatic image represents what we're talking about and what it means for DJs. So we've already covered the fact that we think there's going to be a new music app that may or may not incorporate local music. It may just be for organizing your Apple Music streaming music, but it could be for local music. If it doesn't include local music, then we think they'll leave a legacy app in place to help iPod users and also to help you if you want to carry on using it, at least for the time being. And as one of my viewers there just pointed out, you don't have to do any of this if you don't upgrade your operating system, so at least you can wait. But now we're going to move on to the second part of the equation, which is if Apple's breaking up iTunes, we've already covered how you're going to play your music, but what about how you're going to buy your music if this happens? Well, as you iOS users will know, there is an app on here called iTunes Store, which is for music and movies and so on. I think, this is my personal feeling, that they will possibly not bother having such an app on your desktop. And that means that effectively they might take it a step further and close down the download store for music entirely. I've got a very strong feeling that'll happen because I happen to know, it's public information, but I follow this stuff, that the sales of downloading music on the iTunes store, or all stores, have dropped like this, while the revenue from streaming music has gone up like this. So if you've got streaming music up here and sales down here, get my hand out from my laptop, and dropping, at some point you're going to turn this off, and Apple have confirmed as much. It's just a question of when. I think if you're going to split these apps up, that's probably a good time to do it, right? So I strongly suspect that they will hit the nail on the head for buying music from Apple. If not then, if not later this year, then some point very soon. So that leaves a bit of a conundrum for DJs who are used to buying their music from Apple. Now, bear in mind, all the music you've already bought will be safe, and you know, it's just a case of where you're going to buy new music from, isn't it? So if they don't do that, if you just get an app on your PC, on your Mac that just lets you buy music, hey, they've split it up. You've got iTunes now consisting of a music app and an iTunes store, so who cares? But I think they might not do that. So where does that leave us? Well, there's a few things. Now, unless you're like our friend in Singapore, which is, who doesn't have any other way of buying music apparently, for most people, though, there probably are other options. So you could buy your music at Beatport, which is an obvious one. Beatport has recently teamed up with DJ City to launch Beat Source, which is a whole other area of music, urban and more pop and commercial and so on, to go with their more electronic side. So that opens up all of DJ City style music, which a lot of DJs subscribe to DJ City to get their music. So that's going to become more mainstream. You'll be able to buy that kind of music inside their store, Beatport's store. Other specialist stores like Trax Source, for instance, for dance music. There's Bandcamp. There's an awful lot of music that sells through Bandcamp nowadays. Currently, Amazon sells music, and that may or may not carry on, but let's assume that's carrying on. So you can buy your music on Amazon. And no doubt there'll be other stores springing up selling different types of music as well. So it's not like you won't be able to buy music. As long as there is a residual demand for it, but certainly among DJs, it's going to be available. But definitely joining a DJ pool, like nearly half of our students are BPM Supreme subscribers. So a lot of people do use pools like BPM Supreme, where you pay a subscription every month and you download everything you want, or DJ City is another one, Zip DJ, promo only. These are all great pools that supply DJs with music. So that's another place where you might be able to get your music. Should Apple take this opportunity of splitting up iTunes to actually turn off all sales of music entirely? But I'm nowhere near as confident that they're going to turn off sales of music as I am that they're going to split iTunes up. Pretty sure that's going to happen. Pretty sure iTunes is going to split up into a music app and, movies, podcasts and all the others, and potentially a download store. But, as I say, that download store, is it going to die? Is it going to carry across? I'm not so sure about that. But again, don't panic. All your music is safe. Everything you've ever bought in the past is safe. Your playlists and stuff will be safe until you upgrade the operating system. But even then, we think that Apple will keep some kind of legacy device, a legacy software for all those old devices, old iPods and so on. So it will be your choice when you switch over. So that's all we know, and I just need to reinforce the fact that this is conjecture. They haven't announced this, it's just that it's all over the internet, and there's some very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of reliable sources that are saying this is going to happen. Plus it makes sense. You know, they've already done it on phones and mobile and tablets. It's just, you know, if you are an Apple user, if you use Apple OS, you'll know that all the stuff that's going on the tablets and on your phone is moving across onto desktop as well. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, and it's going to happen this year. So there we go. That is our kind of take on the death of iTunes and what DJs should do. I'm going to close off today by reading out some more questions until I've answered as many as I can. And so if you want to hang around for those questions, great. If not, thank you very much for coming and joining us today. I hope we've helped you to get yourselves ready for the changes that are inevitably around the corner with iTunes. Okay, let's get back to your questions then. So, so again, we're live, so I'm going to take my time to pick out the good ones. Lots and lots of you discussing whether it's right to rip stuff from YouTube. We're not going to get into that today, but that is a good topic clearly that people want to talk about. What is that controller, Phil? A few of you are asking. It's it's the DDJ 1000 from Pioneer. And it's just sat here because we're recording stuff for our complete DJ course, which is coming out soon. So I've been using it to do that. So there you go. I'm all for taking podcasts and movies out of iTunes, says Zach. I was cleaning house and I found literally 70 days of podcasts I listened to that I'd never deleted. Also, I can't load my Marvel movies in Serato. No, you're right, you can't. I hope you're paying attention, algorithm, says Sean over on YouTube. Christopher says, hey Phil, I've put so much into my smart playlists. That's how I find my music. Let's hope they don't mess that up. I think this is going to be one of the biggest worries for people. People who put a lot of work into their smart playlists over the years on iTunes and now find that it might be turned off. Again, don't panic. Again, if you don't update your operating system, nothing will go away. Again, there's going to be innovative solutions for getting those smart playlists out. I'm sure there's too many good people working in software and DJing. Like I said, algorithm, mixed in key, all those people, Damien at Record Buddy at Next Audio, someone will come up with a way of getting those smart playlists out for you, I'm sure, Christopher. Let's make an app, Phil, says Joey. My Joey, Digital DJ Tips Joey. Yeah, let's just do it, Joey. I mean, we can learn programming overnight, right? No, I'm not shooting you down there, mate. We'd love to make the iTunes replacement. Who knows? Get me a beta of that app, says Zach. Okay, I walked away from iTunes and I use Amazon instead, says Jose. Moving on, Beatport is a bit expensive, says DJ2 Fine. I think you're right there. Christopher giving a thumbs up for Tracks Source, somewhere to buy. I don't know where to get music because I mainly play drum and bass and jump up, and a lot of the artists have IDs and Freeviews. Where should I get them? Says Fragment. So if anyone wants to help Fragment out, he's asking over on YouTube, so you can go and chat to him over there. He wants to buy drum and bass, and also, well, you can get all this stuff at Beatport, of course. So go help him over there, drum and bass and jump up. So the playlisting is not great in Tractor, says Ludovic. No, it isn't, you're right, but Tractor are working on improving that. Rekordbox we think is best. Serato is pretty good, Virtual DJ is pretty good. You're right, Tractor is lagging. So how do you manage your music, says Artem? Do you have separate libraries in iTunes, like music you listen to from Apple Music, and in your DJ app for music you play? Or do you have all your music in iTunes? So personally, I use a local folder where I put all my music in it. I don't sort it at all. And then I back that up to Dropbox, but only one way. I don't then access it on any other computers. That's just one of the ways I back it up. Also back it up locally. And I then point my DJ software at that one folder. The music stays in there. And then in the DJ software, I do what I want. I analyze it independently in all software. I also allow iTunes to look at that folder, but not to import the music into iTunes. Just because I'm a reviewer, just because I'm a journalist, I want to see what iTunes is up to. I want to see what all the different softwares are up to. And I'm not a massive cue point loops type user. You know, I'm an old school DJ. I just load tracks and play them. I beat mix by ear manually. So I don't do a lot of that stuff. You know, I really understand the pain of people who spent a lot of time getting their cue points right and stuff in certain software, only to need to move it over to other software, etc. I mean, that's a different area, but that's how I do it anyway. Okay. I really hope it won't go full streaming. Of course, as DJs, we need to have the files. Well, you'll always be able to buy music, Andy, but also really interesting stuff going on in streaming. We know that Beatport is going to be launching a streaming service within DJ software. You can already get Serato in DJ Algorithms DJ. You can already get Tidal you can already get Spotify in Algorithms DJ. You can already get Tidal in Serato, etc., etc. So streaming also is coming. Again, that's a different story. So F Swift is saying trouble is lots of drum and bass is pressed on Vine Lonely. Beatport is more liquid drum and bass than jump up drum and bass. Yeah, I know what you're saying there. You're going to have to buy yourself a turntable and get ripping, I think. Apple already destroyed my whole music library when Apple moved to subscription. How safe might music be from this point? You know, it's difficult to understand what iTunes is doing to your music, Ivan, and that's why we don't recommend it anymore to people. There are ways around this stuff. So DJ Blazon says you can use MediaMonkey instead. MediaMonkey is a PC app that's very, very good for organizing your music. One of the reasons that people love organizing their music in iTunes is that it shows in your DJ software. Every DJ software has got that folder structure down the left-hand side with iTunes in it, right? MediaMonkey doesn't do it. MetaBliss, which is the mixed in key one that's now built into mixed in key software, doesn't do it. Kid 3 doesn't do it, which is a Mac one. None of them do it apart from iTunes, and that's why people love iTunes. But hey, if it goes away, it goes away. If you've just joined us, by the way, you're reaching the end of this broadcast, this Tuesday Tips Live. We're talking about the now pretty strong rumour that iTunes is going to be discontinued by Apple and split into its various apps, and that the store might go away, and what are we going to do about it when it does as DJs? And you'll be able to watch this again from the beginning. By the way, please, 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 if you've enjoyed this, hit that share. The share is what we use to get this far and wide to people who might need to know this, who aren't watching now, and it helps us to do this stuff. So please hit the share button. And of course, subscribe to YouTube and follow us on Facebook so that we can tell you when these go live next time. Right, back to your questions. I abandoned iTunes in favor of Amazon and Google Music a long time ago. Says Danny, right after I learned that they could add music to your library without your permission. Do you remember when they pushed that U2 album on everyone? People got really annoyed about that, didn't they? I have all my playlists on iTunes for Rekordbox. What do I need to do? Says Denny. You can, drag them into Rekordbox and manually kind of redo that stuff. It's going to be a ball ache, but it is possible to do that. Great story, says Terence, but you're all wrong. Apple is in the midst of making the service better, not more complicated. I'm willing to put my Denon DJ Prime 4 up for a bet. Terence, I wouldn't bet you. I'm not a betting man. We are following what we believe is going to happen. Maybe we will be wrong. But the trouble is, Apple is already in a hole with iTunes, and we think that the way they're going to make it better for the vast majority of consumers is to split it all up. What we're talking about here is going to be absolutely awesome for 95% of the world who don't give a toss about local music. They use streaming now. It's just the way it's gone. And it's only going to get more and more that way. I just can't see how mobile DJs will ever be able to rely upon streaming their music for DJing, says DJ Nostalgia. Another debate for sure, DJ Nostalgia, but time will tell. Remember, streaming doesn't mean streaming from the internet. It means having a subscription service. You can always have a local copy of it from that service to play from. But anyway, different argument. So 5G will become commonplace, says Sean on YouTube. 10 years ago, no one even considered video streaming to be viable. Yeah, with 5G everywhere, who knows? Maybe it will make streaming without any local music more possible. So there is zero software that gives great organization and playback tools. Equalizer and even Visualizer in iTunes have been the same for over 15 years, says Legacy GT. Well, look, to be fair, most DJ software is pretty good at playing music back if you're a DJ. I mean, that's what it does. But yeah, I know what you're saying there. Who else misses Winamp, says Joey. You're showing your age there, my friend. Hello, DJ, says Dusane. It's a pleasure to join with all you guys and see your opinions and ideas about our passion. So is DJ City working with Beatport, says Inea over on YouTube. Yes, they are. They're launching Beat Source, which is DJ City and Beatport bringing urban, more commercial stuff to Beatport, which will also be in the Beatport streaming offering. So there you go. Winamp have just returned. Look at their website. There you go. A couple of you saying that. Is it still frowned upon to use a streaming service to DJ with the internet connection issue, says Lindsay? Well, as I say, the best streaming services, in the near future, you won't need to do that, because before your gig, you'll sort everything out that you want to use and you'll click make available offline. And when you get to your gig, you won't need the internet because all the tracks from your service will be there. You can only use them for that gig in that DJ software, but it will save you needing a connection. So lots of you chatting among each other, that's what we want. That's really, really cool. I still believe this is just a rumour, says Patrick. Digital downloads are down, but they're still a great source of income for Apple. Plus, if they killed it off, they'd lose tons of money because most people would probably subscribe to Spotify over Apple Music. Just my thoughts. Well, you could be right there, Patrick. We are, as I say, operating on rumours here. We tend to think the opposite to you, Patrick, but hey, we'll just see what happens, right? Why do you think, this is a different question, so I'll just stick to the point here. Okay, I think we've probably come to the end of the questions that were asked here that are directly relevant, and there's a lot of people asking similar questions. So if your question wasn't answered, hang around, we'll answer you in the comments, or just watch earlier. If you joined late on the broadcast, watch earlier to see them. Thanks for the reassurances, Phil, says Christopher. Winamp really kicks the llama's ass. Memories indeed, says Sack. I just noticed I've got the same laptop sound as you, says Elton on Facebook, so there you go. All right then, there are loads and loads and loads of comments here. There's more here than I've got time to answer, but I will try and answer one or two more. Franklin says, Apple has a large library of music from all over the world. Why discontinue? They won't discontinue it. They'll just stick it all in the streaming service. Joshua says something which is not 100% what I want to read out right now. Danny says, ouch, that's rough. You might wind up buying old CD collections on eBay. It's old school, but people are always selling off their CD collections. It's a really good idea anyway to collect older music, buying CD collections off eBay, because you can just sell them again. Actually, you can't sell them again, says Phil, forgetting the old laws of media. If you're going to rip it, you ought to own the CD as well. In a lot of countries, it's actually illegal to rip stuff off CD and not have the original. And you also need a license in some countries, like England, Finland, Canada, I think. If you want to rip your own CDs and play the rips, you need an extra license just to do that. That has always struck me as pretty unfair. All right, listen, it's so good to see you guys and girls chatting to each other in the comments. I'm seeing so many people answering each other's comments. That's what this is all about. We're a community, remember, so please continue to do that. Remember, if you want a copy of the book and you don't want to get it from the iTunes iBook store, which is currently in iTunes. I think the books are in iTunes. Actually, they're not. The podcasts are. If you don't want to get your book from iBooks or from Audible, where we sell a audio version with me reading it, or you don't want to get it from Kindle, or you don't want to buy it at your local bookstore, I will give you a copy if you come to Digital DJ Tips and click any of the join stuff anywhere, including in the top right hand corner of the website. Click the big join icon, it's free, and part of your membership of the community is this. You also, as soon as you buy any of our courses, get access to something called Student Hub, which is our Facebook group for all our students. And it is an awesome community. A lot of the things we talk about on here have come from discussions going on in Student Hub. So again, come and join in with what we do. Come and lead into Digital DJ Tips. We're here for you. Our mission is to help you become better DJs and better DJ producers. But have this for free on me. Join, the link will be below, or just go to digitaldjtips.com and click the top right hand corner in order to sign up, which doesn't cost you anything. Okay, we've been talking about iTunes. If you've enjoyed this discussion on what we should do as DJs if and when iTunes is discontinued, please share it below. Continue asking your questions below. We will get to you. Meanwhile, it's just left for me to say, get good, get out there, make the moments, people, and we'll see you again very soon. Until then, bye-bye.